Welcome to another Horse Racing Nation Triple Crown Insider. Our guest this week is a rising star in the thoroughbred training scene in Brad Cox. We're going to talk to Brad about his career, about Dazzling Gem, all the other good horses in the barn, and what his plans are for the immediate and distant future. I'm joined by Mark Midland of Horse Racing Nation and Derby Wars, and Kevin Kerstein of Churchill Downs. And we're going to talk Belmont too a little bit later on in the show. Get Brad's thoughts on some of the Belmont horses, as well as Mark and Kevin's too. Brad, let's start by just talking about your background. I mean, look out on the street here on Main Street. I mean, this area is just familiar to you. You grew up here. You grew up going to Churchill Downs. You've always loved the races, and you're kind of living out your dream.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This is home, and we try to have a good meet at Churchill, spring, summer, and fall. And grew up close to the track. My father brought me to the track at an early age, and didn't have anybody that worked it. Didn't have any relatives or anything that worked in the business. Just was, fascinated by the racing, and picked up a racing form and just kind of fell in love with it. I knew I wanted to be involved in some way. Not exactly sure what I wanted to do in the business, but probably midway through high school, I figured out I wanted to train. So.
Yeah, I read a story in the Courier Journal about your dad being a 50-year $2 bettor at Churchill Downs.
Exactly.
So you got some experience coming to the track and enjoying the races, and you just love the atmosphere. You love being around it. And I've read some things about how you engulfed yourself in the form and the statistics and figuring out the races and just really, really making it a part of your life at a really, really young age.
Yeah, no, I was like I said. I guess obsessed with it. I really enjoyed it, and it wasn't so much from a gambling end of it really at all. I was just, I guess, maybe a fan of the sport. I really enjoyed it, just the competitive side of it, and just enjoyed the good horses and the classic races. And I always, wanted to be a part of it. And as I worked for trainers and stuff, and worked for Dallas, I was able to walk over for Derby in Oaks and be there for a Breeders' Cup winner. So when you experience that, it was unbelievable to experience, but I want to experience it on my own as well. So that's what I'm kind of after now.
Brad, how did you make that start? Like, did you just go to the backside and start hot walking, or did somebody hook you up with a trainer? Did you go back and say, who needs help?
I had some friends that I had a good friend. His father worked on the backside, and he got me connected with some trainers back there. I think my first job was with Frankie Brothers walking hots, and it lasted a while. Or actually that one didn't last too long because I wasn't old enough to be working back there. But then I ended up working for Jinx Fires, Bert Kessinger, some other trainers. Jimmy Baker. I spent 2 years with Jimmy Baker out of high school and learned a lot of horsemanship from him, and how to take care of a horse and stuff. So I grew up close to the track. I grew up 2 blocks from the racetrack. So, there was obviously a lot of people around there that was affiliated with the racetrack. So it wasn't hard to get a job or, find out, how to get into the backside, I guess you would say.
And what about when you started to go back there, or when you finally got to the point you said, I think I want to do this? What was the reaction from family and friends? Did people think you're crazy? Or?
No, it's one of those things where, no, they don't think you're crazy because you're working all the time. And, it probably keeps you out of trouble. I always thought that the racetrack honestly kept me out of trouble. Just because, you're working 7 days a week, and when you get off work, you basically want to eat and take a nap. So that's kind of, it was really good for me. The racetrack was, and taught me a lot about obviously responsibility and having a job, and just because you're young and you have a job, you still have to work 7 days a week, and it was very, very good for me.
Our studio audience approves.
Yeah.
And Brad, you talk about coming up through the ranks and working for a lot of different trainers. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about that, and do you take a little bit from everybody that you worked with through the years, and as part of the education?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt that early on your mind, you're open, you're watching, and I can remember to this day when I was 15, 16 years old, the guy that showed me how to put a shank on a horse, and how he showed me to put how to put the shank on the horse, and how we do that today. And I mean, everybody's a little different. So there's no doubt you take things from each trainer, each outfit you work for, and you try to kind of customize it into doing your own thing. But no, there's subtle things, with all those outfits that I've taken and kind of put it into my program.
That's great.
Kevin?
We'll talk about, so you mentioned Jimmy Baker and Dallas Stewart, two guys who are still in it today and doing really well here at the meet. Talk about the differences that you learned from both Jimmy and Dallas and just taking that into your own.
Well, both were great horsemen. I was probably a little more hands-on with the horses and dealing with the horses a little more with Jimmy because I would rub horses. I was kind of a groom/foreman with him. But, Jimmy had probably 20 horses when I worked for him. So, I probably dealt with Jimmy a lot, just, him teaching me about legs and the horse and, how it should look and, watching to see, if they're eating up and, kind of training them out of the feed tub type things. And then with Dallas, I mean, so many horses. When I went to work for him, I mean, he had a lot of horses. And it was probably a lot about management with Dallas, and probably dealt with a few more younger horses and Derby horses and stuff like that with Dallas. So that was a great experience, and probably organization. I mean, when you got that many horses, it has a lot to do with organization. Now, obviously, that come from the D. Wayne Lucas line. So, and obviously, we've picked up several horses over the last couple of years, and I mean, like I tell everybody, I mean, if you got 6 horses or you got 60 horses, I mean, it's all about organization, really.
There's a funny line in the story about Dallas coming from the school of D. Wayne Lucas and you coming from the school of Dallas Stewart. You didn't say that, Dallas did.
Yeah.
But another thing that Dallas is really good at is he's a good politician. He's kind of a vibrant personality. And in addition, Brad, to having to understand the game, which is what came first for you, understanding horsemanship, which kind of came second, and I have a feeling you're kind of a natural at that. But you also have to deal with owners, and that's a whole nother aspect to it. And then you have to do things like this, which is dealing with the media. So the job of a trainer isn't just going to the barn every morning. It's so multifaceted. Do you embrace all of those aspects of your job?
Yeah, I do. I do, yeah. I mean, I enjoy them all. There's no doubt my favorite part of being a trainer is the actual training of the horse. Just watching them train from the time the track opens till it closes. To me, it's kind of when I feel like I'm in my zone watching the horses train. Able to watch them work, gallop, jog. And then they're basically telling us how well they're doing, and that sets us up for whether if we need to run or back off of a horse or move forward. But no, I enjoy it all. I mean, I like dealing with the owners and going to the races, and obviously winning races is the icing on the cake. That's the main thing. But no, I enjoy it. But probably my favorite part is the actual training of the horses. That's what I like more than anything.
Let's fire some stats just so everyone has an idea of what we're dealing with here. In his career, you're 44 starters away from 2,000 in your career, and you're 14 wins away from 500. So that's pretty cool. You're 24.8% overall. And we'll talk about Midwest Thoroughbreds and your progression through the training ranks, because that's when your name really surfaced, and then you had to regroup at some point too. But the last couple of years is really what we're talking about. I mean, 2016, you're 29.2%, 62 wins from 212. 2015, you were 37th in earnings, 44th by wins, which was better than you did before when you were 71st in earnings and 77th by wins. And now we're starting to see your name regularly in the graded stakes scene. We're seeing Dazzling Gem, we're seeing Call Pat, we're seeing Chocolate Ride, we're seeing up and coming young horses that we're going to talk about during the course of the show. But let's talk about going out on your own and what a big step that was to say, okay, I've been an assistant for all these guys. Not only am I ready to do it based on my horsemanship and what I've learned, but you got to have owners, you got to have horses. You can't just do it, and the timing's got to be right. So talk about that.
When I left Dallas, it was December of 2004, so it's been a while. It seems like a long while. But John Gunther, which actually owns a Stradivari in the Belmont, he gave me an opportunity with some horses, some young horses. Give me some decent young horses to deal with. We kept them here in Kentucky and raced at Turfway in the winter, and we did okay with them. And had a fellow named Ed Jenkins here in town from Louisville to give me. He actually gave me my first horse to train. She started in the Churchill that fall, and then won, I think, December 4, 2004. That was our second start and our first win at Turfway Park. But those guys were, trusted me enough to give a 24-year-old a shot, and just try to keep it going. And I probably started on my own a little early, but I wanted to take the shot. I felt like it was time to do it. If I had it to do over, I shouldn't say I would have changed anything, but I don't know if I was quite right.
So that
quite
good
ready.
assistant trainer in your barn, you need to stay here for a couple more months.
I would recommend staying for a while and having something a little more set up, a little bit better setup than I did when I went home, because it was a struggle for a long time. But I always did say, I'm going to win. I will win races. I'm going to win races, and I made it a point to try to stay confident and enter right, and keep the horses happy, healthy, and fit. So. I feel like it's worked out, or it's working out. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So, but we're not where we want to be.
Tell us about Midwest Thoroughbreds and how they came along, and they kind of put you on the map, but then they pulled the rug out from under you. So kind of tell us a little bit more about that.
Midwest was really good to me. I can't even remember what year. I guess it was 2010. They called me. They were looking for someone to go to Delaware Park, and the year before we spent the summer at Delaware Park and had a decent meet, and we probably had 15 to 20 horses at the time, and that following winter or come spring, they contacted us about taking horses, and it kind of escalated into I guess we had probably 50 horses for them that year, and we did okay at Delaware Park for them. We had one filly. It was nice. They ended up winning the Claiming Crown, named My Irish Girl. And I guess we with them for about 6-7 months, and then we parted ways. And I had 4 or 5 horses, took them to Oaklawn, and then we connected again the following spring, and we stayed together for about a year and a half. So, but it was a great experience working with them, claiming and winning a lot of races, and that's something that you can't take away. It's a valuable experience, and I got to, see a lot of horses, claim a lot of different type of horses, and it was, and Midwest taught me a lot about the business of racing. How to, Richard stressed earnings per start a lot. It's very, very important, earnings per start. So it was really good. They taught me a lot about the business of racing for sure.
And then you part ways again with them, and you're left with just a handful of horses.
Yeah. And
you're a successful horseman, and you got to start all over. How was that? Did that make you nervous?
I don't know if it made me nervous. I think it just made me hungry for success, or to build the barn back. I can remember, it was tough, and when the horses left, I can remember loading up the last one. Walking out of the barn. But actually, we were left with 2 horses, and I told myself my goal is to add 1 horse to the barn per week. And actually, Dan Glick from here in Louisville, Lifetime Racing, sent me a horse that Steve Margolis had that he said, I'm going to help me out. I was very thankful for it. But the horse was Danger Stream. She ended up being a decent little filly at the $10,000-$15,000 claiming level. But it kind of worked out, that 1 horse per week thing. It really worked out, because after a month, I think we were up to 6, and then a couple, another month we were up to 10. So it really started building. And I remember when they took those horses from us, I think the 1st of August, until the end of the year, we won 9 races. And over the span, I guess it would have been about 4 months, we won 9 races. And I said, we can do this. it's just, we got to get the horse flesh. And we kept it going, and we're still trying to win races.
Right. When you go about building up your barn like that, is it a matter of just, I mean, especially if you're in your hometown, going out, networking, telling people, going back to other owners to try to network on the back side, the front side, the kitchen? I mean, how do you do that?
Honestly, the only way I knew how to network at that time was just to claim horses.
Okay.
Honestly, I did, but you know what? I did put an ad in the Daily Racing Form, and I did pick up a horse. I did pick up a horse out of the form, and we won some races with her. But you know, I'm not a party guy. I don't go out much, so that's probably not how I'm going to end up picking up horses. But I think just winning races and, you know, having a good win percentage helped us out. Obviously, we had a decent win percentage with Midwest that year, so, you know, people saw that and took notice and sent us horses. But no, probably claiming horses has been the thing that would get us, you know, if we fell in a hole, it would, you know, help us dig out.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a little bit about winning percentage.
Mm-hmm.
How is that something that you look at a lot, or is it just something that comes naturally as you're spotting your horses very carefully?
It used to. I'll be very honest. Win percentage was very big to me. Used to be. It's not anymore. I'm more concerned with earnings per start, I'm probably not as aggressive in my placement of horses now. When I had the claim, I shouldn't say when I had claiming horses, because I obviously still have claiming horses, but when my barn was pretty much made up of claiming horses, I was pretty aggressive in my placement because I was also claiming a lot. I'm not claiming quite as much as I used to. Not that I don't want to, but it's just I've just, you know, got a little bit better quality of horse that I've had in the past, and you know, those good horses obviously do take a lot of time and strategizing and planning with you know, where you're going to go with them, where you're going to ship them, and you know, just, you know, doing homework on who's going here, who's going where, as far as, you know, these graded stakes and listed stakes, and it's a lot of work, but enjoy it, and that's what I'm working for. Is, like I always say, Saturday afternoon horses. That's what I want. I think that's what most people want. I mean,
Yeah,
I've always said I'm going to win it.
I've never heard that before, but that's a good one.
I'm gonna win that Derby.
I have no doubt about that. And it's weird because a lot of trainers are thought of as a claiming trainer or a turf trainer or a sprint. But man, you do it all. Like you've got 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, turf route horses, dirt sprinters. I mean, we're going to go through, you know, some of the roster of your horses. But I think we should probably talk about Dazzling Gem first, because this is Triple Crown season. Mm-hmm. And I remember Dennis Cooper sending me a tweet early on in the Oaklawn season, and I think you had maybe just won an allowance race or maybe a maiden race or something. And I did my top 20 list for KentuckyDerby.com. And he said, "You're forgetting about Dazzling Gem. This horse is going to be something special." And I respect Coop's opinion. And you've been kind of conservative with him. He's run well. I mean, he was 3rd in the Louisiana Derby, 4th in the Arkansas Derby. There was talk about you going to the Preakness, but you haven't thrown him to the wolves. Mm-hmm. You'll know when the time is right to do that. Talk a little bit about his talent and progression.
Yeah, he's a very, very talented horse. I think a lot of him. I think he's a graded stake horse without a doubt in the future. I think his numbers suggested, and you know, we took him to Louisiana. That was a tough spot. That was not the plan to run him in Louisiana. He had a little issue with the foot. We missed some training, brought him back, worked extremely well twice, I think back in 6 days and 5 days before the Louisiana Derby, shipped him down. Honestly, I think the ship knocked him down a little bit. Still ran on to be, was sitting in a good spot. Gun runner went by him like he was actually tied to a pole. Gunrunner was very impressive that day, but he fought on to be 3rd. Was very pleased with the effort. Brought him back in 3 weeks. It really wasn't the plan, but he was doing well. Brought him back in 3 weeks. A good 4th. I thought it was a very, very good race in the Arkansas Derby. He was up, you know, kind of mid-pack, kind of chasing the pace, and was really the only horse. The 3 horses that beat him in the Arkansas Derby all come from
deep closers.
Yeah, were deep closers. So he I thought Gettysburg and Dazzling Gem were, you know, 2 horses that kind of did all the running that day. And but no, he's a nice colt. We think a lot of him. running back in the Sir Barton. Didn't have a great trip. He was kind of running in and out of the mud. He would, run for a little bit. Luis Saez wrote him, then he said he would kind of, get lost out there and then take off again and get lost. And, he come out of the race with a great figure. I was very pleased with him. He was a little funny behind training, and we actually are going to back off of him a little bit.
Okay.
So we're going to give him 60 days and then put him back in light training for 30, and then he should be ready this fall. So we're excited about him. But we're going to do right behind him. He's a very, very nice horse, and like I said, I think he's going to have a big, let's say, 4-year campaign. He should make it back by the end of the year, but we're going to back off of him right now and let him develop a little bit and give him a little time and hopefully be ready for next year.
Is it hard to be patient because it's a 3-year-old year where you can run against restricted company, and there's a lot of money out there in some of these secondary stakes, but you also have to do right by the horse, and it's tough, right?
It is, but we went through this with Al Air Raid last year. He was second in the Iowa Derby and third in the Super Derby. And after that, we gave him time, and he came back last week and ran a really good race at Churchill and ran a lifetime best figure. And we're super pleased with his effort, and we think he's got a lot of big and better things ahead this year.
Kevin likes that horse.
Yeah,
Allied Air Raid.
He's as honest as a horse can be. We're super pleased with him. And but no, it's tough with Dazzling Jim as far as the purses out there. With you got the Ohio Derby, Iowa Derby, Super Derby, the Dwyer next month at Belmont. It's tough with, like you said, the restricted 3-year-olds. But with all that being said, it's horse first, and if he's not 100%, he won't be participating. And we just wasn't super happy with the way he was traveling behind out of the Sir Barton. So we sent him to the clinic, give him a little checkup, and it requires a little bit of time, and he'll be back later this year.
I mean, definitely an exciting horse. I think you hit it on the head in the Arkansas Derby. He did all the dirty work, or right along there with Gettysburg, but finishing fourth and really not much far behind all those closers that had really the advantage of the pace setup. So I think he's definitely a horse where we haven't seen his best, and obviously if he's gonna give him a little rest and come back bigger and stronger, he could definitely be heard from in the fall.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm hoping for. And I mean, we obviously, and as Joe said, is it hard to put a horse on the shelf? It's not with me. I'm not opposed to obviously stopping on horses and giving them time, because I'm a big believer. And if you do right by them, they'll take care of them. They take care of you, and it doesn't ever really seem to work any other way, to be honest. We've had several horses like Chocolate Ride, that's a graded stake winner that we gave several months off to last year, that come back and he won a couple graded stakes off the layoff. And then Spelling Again's another one that she was a graded stake winner last year that we gave her just some time off. Nothing really wrong with them. Sometimes they need time off. They're just tired. And she's come back to run very well in two of her 3 starts this year. She's been third against Cavorting and Caramba, and then fast closing third in the Winning Color. So no, if a horse needs time, I'm all for it. Obviously there's times where there's a big purse down the road that you hate missing, but if they're not doing well, they're not going to run well. So it's all relative, and when they're happy, healthy, and fit, they're going to run well. So it doesn't really bother me with giving him time, Dazzling Jim time off. I'm all for doing what's right for him.
So let's talk about those 2 that you just mentioned, Spelling Again and Chocolate Ride. We'll talk about Spelling Again first. She won the Chaluki Mile last year, grade 2 at Churchill. She was third in the winning colors last time, like you mentioned, 6 furlongs. But to me, she's just such a tweener. She's like, is 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs, 1 turn mile. And then is she grade 1, grade 2 caliber, or do you have to try to knock out as many of these grade 3s and lesser purses as you can? With somebody like her, where she's just not quite, at least at this point, grade 1 caliber against the likes of Cavorting, but you also want to keep trying her, but then you can win some of these lesser races. Talk about managing her and trying to figure out the absolute best spot for a horse like that.
Yeah, we were super happy with the way she was doing going into the Madison and Keeneland this spring. We'd never expected the Madison to come up as tough as it did. It was kind of it was like the Philly Mare sprint, Breeders' Cup sprint. We never thought that race would come up quite that tough. We were pointing for the race all winter. That race normally comes up 6-7 horses. It come up extremely tough. She ran a good race. I was pleased with the effort. Then out of that, we kind of flirted with the Humana Distaff. We know she loves Churchill. She's 2 for 2 at Churchill, or what? She was 2 for 2 at Churchill. And we chased Taurus in the Gulf of Juan last winter. We had a great trip at Aqueduct against her, and she still beat us 2 or 3 lengths. So we didn't really want to run against her Derby day. We opted to go to the Belmont. The race at Belmont was good. She was doing great. She was just third best. I mean, it's one of those things where cavorting was just obviously on her A game that day.
Right.
She crushed us, or crushed the hood.
She
crushed everybody.
Yeah, she's
So
good.
no, she's a nice filly. We brought her back in 2 weeks off 2 weeks rest. She was acting like she wanted to run, so we took a shot in winning colors. Didn't really handle the dirt hitting her in the face. When Sean got her to the outside turning for home, she took off little too late. Good effort, and right now we got some things. We're looking at the Bed of Roses with her at Belmont, or possibly the Princess Rooney at Gulfstream, July 2nd. That's a possibility.
Some of the speed.
Yeah, it's 6 furlongs, and like you said, it goes back to what you said. This filly's been very tough to get the right race for her this year, because I kind of feel like 7/8 to 1 miles are best 1-turn miles. Probably her best distance. It's probably more like the grade 2, more like grade 3 type mare.
Not a lot of opportunities.
Yeah,
7,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where the right setup for her, it's kind of hard to find right now. But she's happy, she's healthy, and she's doing well. So we'll just march forward with it.
Defend that title in the Chaluki.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was a monster. When she was doing so good, well, not that she's not doing well now, but she was doing so well going into that race. And I told Sean Bridgman, I said, just get tied on and just get a nice clean trip, and she's a loaded gun. All you got to do is just pull the trigger, because she was ready to roll.
So let's talk about Chocolate Ride. You claimed that one for $40,000, November of 2014. Multiple graded stakes winner. You have this horse ready for fairgrounds every year. It was 9th in the Woodford Reserve. That was a tough race. But talk about the claim of Chocolate Ride and the development of Chocolate Ride and his affinity for fairgrounds. And you seem to get in these races where he's going 49 to the half, and he's just controlling things on the front end, and he's able to go on with it there.
Yeah, he's obviously a horse for course. He loves that track down there. And it's really not by design. We don't just get him ready for the fairgrounds and then run him in the Woodford Reserve. That's not really our plan every year. But, it just happened to be, last winter, 2015, the winter of 2015, he took us on a little bit of a ride that we didn't expect to get on, obviously, with winning one other than allowance race, and then I think 14 days later winning the fairgrounds handicapped in the Muniz. But he's obviously been very good to us, and the owners John Wentworth and Stefan Brochu, and they've let us do right by this horse last year when he came out of the Woodford Reserve. We were actually pointing him for the opening verse, and the week before we worked him, and he come out of the race or the work with a little bit of a hind end issue, give him all summer off, and he actually just come back from the farm yesterday. We freshened him up for like 3 weeks, and he's doing very well, and we're maybe looking at some spots around the Midwest in the next month on the grass, at maybe Arlington or Indiana or something like that with him.
All right, so this will be a good time to take a look at Chocolate Ride. We'll watch his dominance at fairgrounds. We'll let you guys enjoy this. We'll be back with Brad in a couple minutes after we take a look at one of many Chocolate Ride victories at the fairgrounds, this one from this past meet. And we'll return shortly afterwards to continue on. We've got a lot to still talk about. We want to talk about Green Mask. We want to talk about Call Pat. We want to talk about Brad's dream of one day training a horse for Rick Pitino.
Pick up the 9, about a mile and an eighth. They are in the gate. And they're off in the Fairgrounds Handicap. Good start for Pumpkin Rumble along with Roman Approval. Here's Departing, same as Chocolate Ride as they fan across the course here in the early going. And it's Chocolate Ride who just leads, Departing on the outside. Pumpkin Rumble in the orange cap in the front ranks. Wireless Future held up with the rail at the heels of Chocolate Bride. And on the outside, the Louisiana-bred millionaire String King, also forwardly placed. And same as Roman Approval takes back. Clark worked over toward the rail, and Potomac River is the last one out of the stretch. It's Chocolate Bride who leads here for Florent Giroux. Chocolate Bride in front. Posted a quarter in 24 and 1/5 seconds. It's Chocolate Bride who leads, departing by 3/4 of a length. That same margin to String King, third on the outside for James Graham, in touch with Chocolate Bride, going up the back of the course. Wireless Future saving ground, and between horses, Pumpkin Rumble right there in the thick of it too. Same as is wider out into the course. Here's Roman Approval, keying up the inside there for Javier Castellano, held up Roman Approval. Chocolate Bride's 4 furlongs from home. Then comes Blarp, who's running in the 4 path, then Potomac River Trail still, 49 3/5 for Chocolate Bride as they traverse the far side of the course to 3 furlongs from home. It's Chocolate Bride, and departing continues to zero in on Chocolate Bride. String King is right there too. Wireless Future hugs the rail. On the outside is Same As looking to quicken into these splits. Pumpkin Rumble between horses. Blarp in the white cap is fanned wide. Cutting the corner, Roman Approval, and Potomac River was last as they straightened 3/4. 1:13 and 4/5 seconds. Chocolate Bride now set down by Florent Giroux. A furlong to go. It's Chocolate Bride who bumps the lead to 3. Departing fully extended. Roman Approval now pulls out with a late gain. It's Chocolate Bride. Chocolate Bride just keeps the fairground stakes spinning up. Roman Approval was second, departing third, and String King held off the rest of the fairgrounds handicap field for fourth. Chocolate String King to make up the
Chocolate Ride's one of many wins at fairgrounds, and you talk about him, Brad, being a 6-year-old gelding. You're looking at Indiana, you're looking at potentially Arlington for him, and you know so much of this is management of the horses. Of which you have many good ones. And we want to talk about, too, a big race coming up for you at Churchill on Saturday where you've got 2 in the same race. You've got Cash Control and Sweet Acclaim. Now, I'm going to go on record right now because I've talked to you about Sweet Acclaim. She will be my top pick for the race because I think she's visually impressive. I think she's progressive. But Cash Control doesn't have to face Tepin. See you later. I see Brad waving, the horse getting on the van, getting on a plane, go to Royal Ascot. See you later.
She's getting class relief.
Yeah, third though, that was a big race.
No, it was a super big race, big effort. And she's, honestly, I mean, just watching this filly train. I mean, she was training great going into the distaff, but I tell you, she could be training better going into this mid julep. She had 2 weeks ago worked on the turf. Actually, Sean worked her on the turf at Churchill, and I mean, it was a very, very good work. Very pleased with her. She was due to work this Sunday on the turf. We had some showers the night before, and she worked on the dirt, just a simple half and 49 and 2. But she looks great. I mean, her coat's great. I think her coat's better now than it was going into the race Derby day. So real pleased with how she's doing. And she's, just obviously just been a very, very consistent mare since last fall.
Another one of those horses that you have that can run on dirt, run a 1-turn mile if she had to, runs on turf. Is it nice to have options like that, or does it make it more frustrating to try to figure out what she does best and where you should place her?
Last winter, Richard and Sean and myself had kind of went back and forth on what we thought was best for her as far as dirt, turf. Because I think you could see there we took her to Oaklawn. We thought she would. Well, she was 2-1. We figured she looked like she fit in that race, and it wasn't a bad race. She was 4th, beaten 2.5, but put her back on the turf. And we do think right now. I mean, we would run her on the dirt or off the turf if you said, she can handle the dirt, obviously being a stake winner on the dirt and great stake placed on dirt and turf. But she's, I think she's a little better on the turf. It's definitely kinder to her, and I think she appreciates it.
What about the other one, Sweet Acclaim?
She's doing unbelievable. Both these mares, I'm not just saying this because owners could be listening, but they're both.
We're not going to ask you to pick one.
Yeah,
I would like to, but I'm not.
And I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't because it goes back to they have different running styles, but they're both doing equally as well. Sweet Acclaim's very, very nice. We had this filly last summer. Pete Bradley sent her to us. I was super high on her. She was ready to run at the September meet, and she had a little issue, and I thought it was over then. I thought, well, we obviously had to stop on her. She required time, and Pete gave her the time. Pete Bradley gave her the time, and we were. I didn't know if he was going to bring her back, but I'm sure glad he did, because she's a very, very nice filly. Obviously, they imported her from Europe, and Chad campaigned her through her 3-year-old year, and she was great at stake place as a 3-year-old. She was great at stake place. So it would be big for her as well as Cash Control to pick up this grade 3 on Saturday. But both are doing extremely, extremely well, and they'll both show up and make a good showing on Saturday.
They're suggesting an exacta box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely box it.
I love the comment on Sweet Acclaim's last race that moderate pace, 4 to 5 wide, explosive close.
Those are my comments.
Oh, those are your comments. Okay, so that's
Those
your
are my
comments in the
notes.
formulator.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so the DRF comment is lost position
At
early,
will.
clear,
No, those are mine
Drew
too.
off. Oh, the
Look.
bold.
low
Those are all
return, 4 wide under reps.
That's all mine.
Those are all
At will
yours.
drew off is the racing form.
Okay, so all basically saying the same
I put
thing.
in the work.
I like yours better.
That's good.
I get more.
fun
They only
terms.
get 4 words to work with. I can work with this.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've got much better comments.
Power of formulator.
And obviously this filly here, Sweet Acclaim, this is a step up for her. Off her last race. I mean, she's this is not a 2 other than, and Cash Control doesn't have to chase Tepin. So, we're kind of going at it from different angles, and obviously Cash Control sets a little closer to the pace, and Sweet Acclaim kind of falls out of the gate and makes one run late. So they shouldn't get in each other's way at all.
It's a fun race for you to just sit back and say, I'm really looking forward to this, because you want to see both of them run.
Mm-hmm.
You're rooting for both of them,
Right.
but it's a race that can be used as a gauge for both of them, especially Sweet Acclaim.
Right.
You pretty much know what Cash Control is, but you can still get better. But for
Yes.
Sweet Acclaim, this is like, okay,
Right.
let's see how good you are, because we think you can be really good.
Right. Yeah, and Florent actually wanted me to run her. Florent rode her the last 2 times, and he was trying to convince me to run her in the Just a Game at Belmont. But I think that's a little bit to do because he's up there.
Yeah.
Belmont.
Was that Doug or Falon trying to spin you?
Florent. Yeah, he's really high on this filly. He really likes her. He's telling me this morning. He says, I really hate he really hates that he's not riding her on Saturday. But we talked it over, and we decided we thought Robbie would be a great fit for her, and Robbie's obviously an experienced rider, and he'll if she's good enough, he can get the job done.
Talk a little bit about the riders for a second, because when we were down the winter circle the other day, Joe and myself, we were talking how Sean was so good with front end riders, and you used a lot of different riders with Robbie and Sean and Louis
John
Sias
Court.
and John Court. And talk a little about, is that like an owner decision, or is that you trying to figure out the best rider for the horse?
Yeah, it lots of times it has to do with the horse and what I'm thinking they're wanting to do, as far as like either coming from out of it or being on the lead and stuff. Sean's very effective on the lead, as well as Cord. Florent's good on the lead. He's patient as well. But obviously different riders, different tactics, and Sean rode a really good race on a Cultivar's Big Changes a couple weeks ago. That first time grass, it was either going to look like a hero or a zero with that one, because he was coming off two dirt wins. And I told Steve Landers, the owner, when I took over the horse, I guess it's been about a year and a half ago, I said, I think this horse wants the turf, just how he looks and pedigree. It seems like a lot of these horses out of the Giant Causeway mares, and these midshipmen, obviously Lady Shipmen, take to the grass. And this horse has got a big old foot on him, and he got the job done at Oaklawn twice with breaking the maiden and then winning the allowance race. But I never thought he looked super, super comfortable on the dirt. And then the other day when he ran on the grass, he really sprint home well. I think he came home the final quarter in 22 3/5, that's a real racehorse time. And hopefully he has a big future on the turf.
Joe and I were very happy.
Yeah, I was very happy.
Yeah.
It made me look smart, but you can't run on the turf at Oaklawn, and
No.
you had the turf pedigree. And when you told me before the race about the the foot and everything, and we were kind of thinking along the same lines. Although I'm a handicapper and an analyst, you're an analyst, but you're also the trainer of the horse. It made me feel a lot more confident because there were reasons to believe the horse would run
Right.
well outside of what I was just seeing in race replays and on paper.
Right. And the owner obviously lives in Little Rock, Arkansas, so that's why the horse does winter at Oaklawn. And as long as he stays on the turf, or we'll keep him on the turf for now, as long as he's performing well on it. He probably will not end up at Oaklawn next winter, but we'll just take it a race at a time.
Now you mentioned earlier Sweet Acclaim. I think she's a 5-year-old mare now, right?
Yeah,
So she's
she's
5 lightly raced. But you have a 6-year-old mare in your barn called Call Pat, who's made $620,000. She's won the Azeri
She won the Azeri. She
And the-
won the Groupie Doll, the Azeri,
by
and the
Cola.
Payaco. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And do you think in Fleur de Lis with?
No, we actually stopped on her. She had a little bit of an issue that required a month off.
Okay.
I sound like a broken record here. All my horses are getting a month, 3 months. But no, yeah, and it goes back to if they need time, we give it to them. But she's on the shelf for about 3 weeks to a month right now. Nothing major, and hopefully, if it all goes well, she could be back possibly for the Groupie Doll at Ellis.
Okay.
She won the Groupie Doll last year, so that's kind of the short-term goal with her right now.
Yeah, and it's nice to know in your schedule where horses fit. When you got to give them a little bit of time, you say, okay, we'll give them a little time, we'll give them a little extra time, but we can still make this race.
Yeah. So I think if all works out, if it all works out, she could possibly make the Groupie Doll.
6-year-old mare comes from the clouds.
Yeah, she's honest. I mean, she tries hard every time. I mean, she's a filly. Actually, she made a start for a tag last spring here at Churchill. I kind of had to twist Myron Miller's the owner's arm to do it, but I said, man, I just don't really think anybody will claim her. We were having a hard time getting black type on her, and she was third that day at Churchill, and then we took her to Indiana, and she was absolutely just. Joe Rocco rode her that day and was completely way out at the back, and he was scrubbing on her 3/8 poles, the short field. She was dead last, and all of a sudden she just comes flying, and Joe Rocco just really rides her well and just does a great job with her and knows how to get her to go the last little bit there.
Should we take a look at her?
Sure.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a look. So we're going to take a look at Call Pat winning the Azeri at Oaklawn. And the thing about winning at Oaklawn, it's kind of a forward track to have a horse come from the clouds like that. I mean, maybe she likes the surface, but it's a rare instance. I mean, we saw Sudden Breaking News, we saw Creator, but it's not exactly a
Not as
typical
common,
kind of
yeah.
win. So let's take a look at Call Pat, and we'll relive the Azeri, and then we'll be right back.
High Dollar Woman to the outside. They're in the gate. And they're off in the 2016 Azeri Stakes. From the center, Sarah Sis wins the break with High Dollar Woman moving up from the outside. These two are quickest. Streamline taken in hand to race in third. And there's Florent Giroux riding the favorite Untappable. She's fourth, well in the clear. Kiriaki is racing on in fifth, followed by Michelle, 2 in front of Theogony. And the stretch runner Call Pat is last of all and about 10 lengths off the lead as they run around the opening turn. Taking over the lead, Joe Bravo and High Dollar Woman by a length and a quarter. Untappable is a bit keen here, throwing her head about while racing in second. Sarah Sis is reined back to run third. Streamline is on hold while fourth in front of Michelle in fifth. Then Kiriaki, not asked for much by Mario Gutierrez, only 4.5 lengths off the lead. It's a stretch of another 3.5 to Theogony and 2 more to the trailer Call Pat. She's tugging under Rocco, and she's better than 9 lengths off the pace after the opening half mile went in 47 and 4. Less than half a mile to go in the Azeri, and Sarah Sis down on the inside pokes the neck back in front. 3 wide Untappable, yet to be given the green light. From between horses, it's High Dollar Woman. From behind the speed, here's Kiriaki into fourth. Then to the inside, the Streamline, no place to go. Michelle on the outside, 2 better than Theogony, and Call Pat starts to catch up as they run around the far turn. Florent Giroux and Untappable now set sail for the money. They're a quarter of a mile from home, and they're in the front. On the outside, Kiriaki trying to come after her, and Streamline off cover and into the clear. 3/16 to go. Giroux shakes up the reins on Untappable. Will have to deal with Streamline on the outside. Back third is Sarah Sis, then Call Pat. Rocco weaving through traffic with the stretch runner. In deep stretch, Untappable is all out. Here comes Call Pat along the rail. Call Pat's got her. It's Call Pat in time. Untappable outrunning the stretch for second. It's close third, either Streamline or Theogony in 144 and 2.
Well, that was fun. Call Pat. Didn't look like she was going to win there, but gets up in time. And like you said, Joe Rocco just seems. You ride Joe Rocco a lot. I mean, Kevin mentioned, you ride different riders. Chris Landeros, you ride quite a bit. You mentioned Bridgeman, Court, in addition to Florent recently. But if a jockey has success on a horse like Joe has on that one, they just get along. That just seems like a natural partnership moving forward, then, right?
Yeah. He fits that filly very well. Yeah. She raced up in New York a couple times last fall, and Rocco did not ride her. Louis Saez rode her once, and he rode her okay. And Louis probably warmed her up a little too much in the post break because she broke and she was put herself up in the race a little more. And then the next time, I think it was Breeders' Cup Day, I think Manny Franco rode her, and I told him, I said, Manny, whatever you do not take this filly away from the pony. Leave her with the pony, keep her relaxed, just let her do her thing. Don't worry about it. When you get to the 3/8 pole, just start scrubbing on her. She'll come running. And I think she was third that day behind, I think, America and I can't remember who else was second. Maybe Suge had a filly in there was second. But he did a great job riding her that day. And obviously Rocco's won 3 graded stakes on her, so he fits her the best. And he knows her. He knows that, he knows how she feels and how when she starts running. So he does a great job on her.
Exciting race. It was just a funny story, but that race came up in one of our contests, and some of the players were yelling at us like, "Why are you putting that race in there with Untappable? She's 2-5 and she'll never lose."
Yeah. That's funny.
Look when she came off the layoff the year prior, and she
gold
ran
medal.
Dolph. Yeah.
Right, I think gold
Dancer.
medal dancer.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was Von Hummel, right? Yeah.
Yes. So if you're gonna run against Untappable, it's good to do it all the way off.
And Rose is not riding her anymore.
Yeah.
Different deal. Let's talk about your 2-year-old. I mean, Kevin and I can attest to this. Twirling Cinnamon, I thought, was one of the most impressive 2-year-old winners we had earlier in the season last year. Beat what I thought was a good field. Had some marginal success since then. You brought the horse to Saratoga. It was maybe a little disappointing there. I haven't seen it work since March at Oaklawn.
Yeah.
With him, where does he stand?
He had some just minor ankle surgery back in I think mid-March, late March, and he's actually will resume training the middle of this month. So that's where we are with him. I think he ended up winning a stake at Sam Houston this winter,
Right.
Small 3-year-old stake. I think it was called the Space City. But he's a nice colt. That's obviously probably not a Saratoga horse, but be able to go through his conditions and nice little horse.
What about 2-year-olds coming in?
We have plenty of 2-year-olds. We have a lot of 2-year-olds. We've been, our owners have given us several 2-year-olds this year, trusted us with some very expensive horses. We don't have anything quite ready to run yet. We may have a 2-year-old starter in the coming weeks. We have a horse. I think we have a filly for a double diamond named Star Bear, which is a broken valve filly. She's probably going to be our first starter. She should make the Churchill meet. And then we have an Astrology filly and our Charge filly. Should make the first part of the Ellis Park meet. Maybe the tail end of Churchill. But that's kind of where we are with our 2-year-olds. We have plenty of 2-year-olds. We have a nice Union Rags colt that we think showed a good bit of run. And we actually have 2 horses that French bred 2-year-olds that are by my boy Charlie. That is a nice stallion in Europe that they look like they could be decent. Obviously, probably grass horses, but could be have some quality about them.
I think I remember right. Your name was down in the sales on OBS.
Yeah. We got some horses out of OBS and most of those we kick out for 30 days and kind of we'll pick them up. Some of them we brought them back in, but we haven't even breezed some of them yet. So we try not to get in too big of a hurry with the 2-year-olds. We let the 4.5 and 5/8 of a mile races get out of the way, and when the distances get a little longer, we'll start running a few more of them.
Stars of tomorrow, Churchill.
Yeah, there you go. We'll be ready.
All right, so we're going to talk some Belmont, and I think we want to get Mark's opinion, Kevin's opinion, obviously your opinion too, Brad, about who you like and why. Give the fans out there, a little bit of inside information, and and opinions on the field. 13 horses that was drawn today. You've got Exaggerator, the Preakness winner, is the 9-5 favorite. You've got other Triple Crown horses in here: Destin, Cherry Wine, Sudden Breaking News, Stradivari, Gettysburg. Let's talk first about the horses that you're really familiar with because you've run against them. The likes of Sudden Breaking News, you talked about Gettysburg, Creator. I thought, and I'm interested to see what your thoughts are, that the best horse coming out of Arkansas was Sudden Breaking News. And he ran a good race in the Derby, 5 weeks till the Belmont. You know, people get caught into the trap where, oh, it's a deep closer, it's a 1.5 miles, it's going to work in their favor, which definitely doesn't have to be the case. But your thoughts on the horses coming out of Oaklawn since you ran against them, and that's kind of where we'll start.
You want to start with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Sudden Breaking News. I mean, like you said, I don't know if nothing against Louis Quinones, but I mean, Mike Smith on him. You know, obviously Mike knows Belmont, so that could be a move forward as well. I'll be honestly, I'll be rooting for Dallas. I mean, I don't know if these colts are good enough, but you know, and I mean nothing. But I mean, you know, they just broke their maidens. It's obviously a big step up, but I'll be rooting for Dallas. I'm a big fan of Todd Pletcher, so I like Stradivari, and also John Gunther. Like I said earlier, he gave me my start training, so I'll be rooting for Stradivari as well. So it's interesting race. I mean, you know, and I don't know how Exaggerator will take to a fast track. I mean, obviously he can run on a fast track, but you know, with
Different kind of track.
Yeah,
It's a different kind of deal there.
No, there's no doubt about it. And if he can take to it, I mean, he's probably he's battle tested him. He's you know, made 11 starts and you know, run early on as a 2-year-old. So he's obviously the best horse in the race. If he can take to the track and stuff, that's the question. But it should be an exciting race.
With Sudden Breaking News, are we going with the first time not a gelding angle?
It's a weird
First
deal.
time ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, explain what you're talking about, Mark. What did they found out that he wasn't a gelding? He's actually originally, and he
Yeah.
may have been getting.
That's amazing. What I guess it came. One of the tests came back a little different for a gelding as far as
Maybe the
testosterone.
testosterone's
The
possibly,
testosterone.
yeah.
So they did an ultrasound and found out that he is a full male.
Or maybe he
technically.
dropped one or something, was it?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't think
read
he
too
dropped
much
him, yeah.
No, he
detail
Yeah.
on that. What is he? He's listed
He's
as
listed as a
original.
ridge or
Yeah.
rig.
Interesting. So,
So crazy. Brett, I wanted to ask you. You know, we've talked a lot about spotting horses and stakes races tonight, and you know how you know obviously when you've got certain stakes races at your home track, you kind of need to point and go for. How cute do you get when you're looking at different stakes races around the country? Do you take it to look at the quality of the field or the pace of the race? You know, obviously, like this was a race that had no pace until they threw Gettysburg in, which is pretty rare.
Right.
A lot of times, if you have a closer and then there's no pace, you just kind of stick to your plan and tell your owners, well, let's see what happens.
This is my theory on running in stakes. Yes, if you're at home, like if you're based at Churchill, and you know the field's short and they need you, and you have no other spot, it's great. It's a great, hey, run, take a shot. But my theory on shipping for stakes is if I'm not the first or second choice, I have no business getting on a van. First, second, or third choices, and obviously that depends a little bit on the purse too. If obviously like Spelling again last month, we shipped her for the Ruffian. She was third. She picked up $25,000, $250,000 purse. So at the end of the day, she made a couple bucks, so it wasn't a bad thing. And obviously, she was doing. We were very happy with the way she was doing. So, but personally, I don't ship unless I really think I can get a big piece of that purse. That's my theory.
good handicapping.
And
tip.
does it involve? I mean, do you take it to the level of talking to the agents, or they're talking to the race secretaries, seeing how they're shaping up, maybe waiting another week to go to a different destination?
Yeah, no, we talked to, obviously being here, we talked to Dan Bork a lot, just got to get a feel on how big the fields are going to be, and Andrew Burns up in New York when we go to NYRA race up there, they give you insight as to, especially with the filly mare division, you get a lot of short fields with those. These bigger races, like these $1 million races. I mean, you can look at this Belmont card, like the Met Mile. I don't know exactly how many are in it, but it's a huge field. We're in the Jaipur up there on Saturday. It's 14 horses. I mean, it's like so when that purse money's big, people are going to show up. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, you're in the Jaipur with Green Mask. We should just mention that real quickly too. A horse that you just recently got third in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year. Actually hung out with Green Mask in Hong Kong this past year. He's kind of a world traveler, but you tried him a mile last time. Now you're cutting back to 6 furlongs, which might actually be perfect for him because he might come up a little short going 5 or 5.5. 6 looks good, and you fit that race great at Belmont on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm excited about him. Sheikh Abdullah, he's from Saudi Arabia. He owns the horse. He wanted to try him a mile. We thought that the opening verse would be a great opportunity to try him, and obviously it didn't work out very well. It had nothing to do with how the horse was training. The horse was training great and come out of it in good shape. Obviously, we're running back in 3 weeks off that effort. He just didn't handle the mile, and the 3/4 should be right in his wheelhouse. I think that's. You can look at his form and see that he should be able to handle it. It's obviously a tough race, but he's training well. He shipped up the other day. He's doing fine, and he had a great race this spring when Wesley had him over the Belmont turf, going 7/8. I think a lot beat him that day. He's back in there, so it's a super competitive race. But he should fire.
He's had some challenging feet.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
No, he has, and right now they're ice cold. I mean, we keep glue on. He come with glue on shoes. He has glue on shoes on. So, but right now his feet are, he's in a good spot.
Okay, cool. Are we gonna get back to Belmont?
So Belmont wise, I mean, it's kind of a wide open race after Exaggerator. I think he's obviously the horse to beat on paper. Kind of had a little bit of a dream set up last time, so for me, I think this is a chance to at least look around a little bit for a price. And
look at some of the horses that have won the Belmont. There's been some bad horses that have won the Belmont.
It can get wide open, and I just get a little concerned about trying to back some of these closers come in from 20 lengths out of it, and maybe they're not quite that far. And I think the way this race is setting up with Gettysburg Goes, it's a little tricky with a rabbit, because what does that mean? Does that mean he's going to go, hell's bells for as long as he can, or is he going to try to run a moderate race? But I think the Pletcher horses, Stradivari and Destin, just kind of get that Garden Trip right behind him. They could be 3 lengths behind him, or they could be 7 lengths behind him, but they're probably well clear of everyone else. And wow, it just seems like a great spot to be in.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Kevin thinks, because I think Stradivari by the end of the year is going to be one of the best handicap horses in the country. 3-year-olds going to older. The race at Keeneland was one of the most visually impressive races I've seen by a 3-year-old this year. And the Preakness was a lot better than it looked. He broke a couple steps slow. He wound up in behind horses. He was kind of in a claustrophobic spot. Then he was hung 6 wide, and it looked like he might have a chance, and he just kind of flattened out. And Brad, you can speak to this. Obviously, he's had 4 lifetime starts. He's got a ton of natural ability. He's in the right hands with Pletcher. This is the kind of horse that is gonna get better, you would think, if he stays sound as the year goes on, and can be as dangerous as any 3-year-old at the end of the year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I'm assuming that Tabor purchased him maybe after he broke his maiden or somewhere in there. After he broke his maiden, he was pretty impressive. And yeah, I agree with you. The race at Keeneland was a monster race. I think he got 100 buyer that day, and I remember watching that race. It was early in the day, and he just galloped around there. But no, he looks like he's a serious horse, and it's probably a little bit of a question if he can get the 1.5 miles, but just kind of, like you said, move forward. He could be a big time handicap horse or later on this year.
Kevin, your thoughts?
When I saw Cherry Wine come back after the Preakness and work, he looked all right and kind of gave me a little bit of hope and saying maybe this horse will be all right going into the Belmont. I'm going to play this race. I'm going to use Exaggerator and Cherry Wine, but the horse I'm going to key in underneath would be Lonnie in 4th. Is the nutcase.
This is a Travis Stone strategy.
It really is, and he taught me a lot about this. And Lonnie can just be one of those that'll plod along. He'll be a good price and could run fourth.
I think Lonnie could easily run even third, and I mean, if he didn't, his break is obviously as slow as he did in the Preakness, he's probably right there for third, and at a mile and a half, who knows? I mean,
The
this
horse gallops 8 miles a day. A mile and a half should not be a
he
problem.
has all kinds of
Who knows
stamina.
if he'll even break?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I would have loved to see like Irad Ortiz or someone like that on Lonnie. Then I would have moved him up a little bit. But
It's interesting to say that. Yeah, I mean, it's just a question, about how good Lonnie is. How good is he? Again, with the off track, and he just seems to be able to run all day, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's good enough to beat the best horses in this race. If you're a handicapper and a horse player, do you play Exaggerator? He's going to have yet another race, in the Triple Crown Series, a mile and a half sandy racetrack. It's not exactly a race for favorites. Outside of American Pharoah, I think the last favorite to win was a Fleet Alex in 2006. I mean, you've had horses like Ruler on Ice win this race, and Tatara win this race, and Sarava at 70 to 1 win this race. So it all looks well and good when you look at it on paper, and then sometimes you can just throw it out. But I agree with what you guys said, that Destin and Stradivari should get the right trips if they break well. They're the no excuses kind of horses in this race. They don't need a setup. There's a lot of other horses in this race that need a setup.
Right.
So I think, Stradivari, I think to me is the safe bet, especially if you can get 5 to 1, which I think there'll be a little bit more wise money than that out there, maybe 4 to 1, 9 to 2. And then Sudden Breaking News, who's had the time off, seems to be training well, and the arrow's pointed in the right direction. Those are the ones that I would be looking at.
The New York break could be tough too.
Lots of good training reports.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what there's really to not like about him. I mean, that Unified's a very nice horse. I know there was a hot pace last time, and he looks like he can set close, and he could be tough. Obviously,
He ran a
likes the
great race
track.
last time.
Yeah,
Really
he
did.
did.
Yeah.
I thought Unified was going to win by 20, and he got a little late there, and this horse was really running at him. But this is a nice horse, the New York bred.
And especially watch him in those New York bred races at Saratoga.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a monster up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should be a fun race. We're getting close to wrapping this up, but I have a question for you. If you could train for one famous person, would it be Coach Cal?
He doesn't
Would
own
it be
racehorses.
But I mean, it doesn't have to be someone that owns horses right now. If you could train for somebody, who would it be? Like if it were an athlete or a famous actor, who would be somebody really cool to train for? And you can't. I'm not including Rick Pitino because I know he'd be your first choice.
Somebody famous to train for that does or does not own racehorses.
Yeah.
Probably. I guess LeBron James.
That could be
I mean,
cool.
yeah. Well, I mean, he's
Courtside
like,
seats
or
to Cavs.
Steph Curry. I mean, yeah, exactly. Somebody that you just would be, obviously someone that would be, you would tell your friends, look, man, hey, I met him. Like I went to the Cleveland Pelicans game, Cleveland Cavaliers, New Orleans Pelicans game this winter, and got to see LeBron. I called all my friends, sent pictures. I was like, look, man, I see LeBron James playing basketball. So yeah, I don't know. That's just somebody famous.
Do you think they win tonight?
Probably not after watching those first two games. I don't know. It's not looking good for him. And I don't have a dog in the fight. I like both LeBron and Steph Curry. I like talent, and they're fun to watch. So I'll probably watch the first 5 minutes and go to bed. Or fall asleep. I'll be in the bed when it
How
starts.
did the Louisville guy become such a huge UK fan?
It's my family. They were my mom, dad, brother were all UK fans, Kentucky fans. So that's really. And I always say it's however you're raised. If you're raised in your house is a Louisville house here, everybody's a Louisville fan. You're a Louisville fan. If you're raised in a Kentucky house, you're a Kentucky fan. So that's how it works, I think.
And speaking of family too, real quick, your boys are with you almost all the time in the summertime when they're off school. I see them on the backside. Is it they want to get into the game too?
Probably so, yeah. They have an interest in it, and believe me, they know a lot. They really, really do. They know all these horses running in the Belmont, their pedigrees, what races they're coming out of, and they're just students of the game. They, read the Blood Horse every week, and are always, their iPads are on Equibase Daily Racing Form, and they're students of the game. They really enjoy it, and they like it a lot.
Awesome.
Anything
And how
else
old are
before
they?
we wrap?
18 and 15, and we got that little guy over there, which is the new shooter. New shooter.
All right.
Anything else before we wrap?
Should be a good race this weekend. A ton of great races on the Belmont card,
it's
and
amazing.
really starting Thursday, there's good races. So great weekend of racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tremendous. It's like they made this weekend what we've gotten to know for Derby weekend, Preakness weekend. It's just an amazing day to be a racing fan and to just be able to sit back and not only play the races as a horse player and a gambler, but also just appreciate the amazing talent that we get to see.
Nair's done a great job with it. Martin Panza putting together, a Breeders' Cup type card on Belmont, which was their goal all along, and I think they're well on their way to achieving that, and it's great for everybody.
Kevin, any final thoughts?
No, it should be just a great week of racing, and looking forward to this weekend. Hopefully.
Single six at Churchill.
Oh gosh, it's
Oh, we got
well
them.
over $500,000, so a lot of money to be had there this
And
week.
our racing's been great, very competitive too. So, Brad, it's been great having you on. I mean, we look forward to even bigger and better things down the road. Not only continuing to win at a high percentage, but seeing your name in these graded stake races, and like you mentioned, in Triple Crown races in the very near future. And I know if you could win one race, the Kentucky Derby, how would that feel for you?
That'd be the best.
All right, and on that note, we're going to wrap it up for another Horse Racing Nation Triple Crown Insider. We'll be back in about 15, 20 minutes or so with the Derby Wars webcast, so tune back in for that. For Mark, Kevin, and Brad, I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in.